All right, hi. This is just a brief recap of what we learned in class today. We learned about conjugating verbs, we learned about future tense, and this is a way that you can talk about what you're going to do. And it's a pretty easy formula if you learn to just conjugate this verb, ir, which means to go. Okay, so you would think about like, I am going to, and then your blank would be the infinitive. And when we talk about verbs, just a quick overview, a verb is a word that shows action or a state of being, right? So, action, to talk, to sing, cantar, to sing, pintar, to paint, nadar, to swim, leer, to read, comer, to eat, jugar, to play. These are all infinitives. And you'll notice infinitives end in an AR or ER, and some will actually end in an IR as well. Okay, like compartir would be to share. Okay, so the way you conjugate these verbs depends on their ending, whether it's an AR verb, ER verb, or IR verb. We're not going to get to that just yet. We're going to focus on how to conjugate this verb, ir, to go. It's an irregular verb, so you do have to memorize how this works. So you would, when we conjugate verbs, we typically do a T chart, which you'll see this T right here. On this side are our singular forms, meaning one person is doing the action. Over here, these are our plural forms, so you have more than one person doing the action. We typically put it in first person, second person, and third person. First person is I or yo. Second person is tú or you that you would use with familiar people, friends, close acquaintances. Third person would be he, she, or it, él, ella, or usted. Sorry, usted is more of a formal form of you. So if you were addressing like a law enforcement officer or a judge or someone you wanted to show respect to, you would address them as usted, not tú. So this is how you conjugate it. Yo voy, tú vas, él va, or ella va, or usted va. Then if we want to say we are going, we'd say we, nosotros vamos. Ellos van, ellas van, ustedes van. Okay? So voy, vas, va, vamos, van are how we would conjugate this verb to go. So if I wanted to say I am going to sing, this is how you talk about the future tense. You would say yo voy a cantar. Voy a cantar. You don't always have to put the yo with it because voy implies that I am doing the action. Okay? Now, if we wanted to say you, let's say you are going to swim, we'd say tú vas a nadar. Okay? Or he is going to eat. Él va a comer. Va a comer. See how this formula works? You conjugate the ir, add a, and then add the infinitive form of the verb that shows the action you're going to do. So you can talk about a lot of things in the future if you just know this simple formula here. So make sure you write this down somewhere in your book. Go ahead and pause the screen if you need to. Write it down and it will help you because as we conjugate other verbs, we're going to do a similar T chart. So once you have that copy down in your book, go ahead and take a look at this. So if we have a verb that ends in AR, like cantar, you would chop off the AR to find the stem. And we would say cant is the stem. So you would have to know the endings for AR verbs are these in first person singular, second person singular, third person singular, plural, first person, plural, third person. Okay. Spain has a vosotros form, but very few countries actually use that. So we're just going to focus on these big five. So if you were to conjugate cantar, you would say yo canto. Tú cantas. Él canta. Nosotros cantamos. Cantamos. Ellos cantan. And that's how you conjugate any regular AR verb. You chop off the AR ending and then you match it with the appropriate form based on who is doing the action. Yo canto, tú cantas, you sing. Él canta, he sings. Nosotros cantamos, we all sing. Ellos cantan, they sing. Okay? Or ustedes, you all sing. Okay? And then for ER verbs, you're going to notice the endings are very similar. O, es, hemos, en. Here it was o, as, a, amos, an. Here it's o, es, hemos, en. Okay? So if we wanted to talk about comer, we would find the stem by chopping off the ER, and then we would put our stem down here. Yo como, tú comes, él come, nosotros comemos, ellos comen. Okay, so you have just learned how to change all these infinitives based on what their ending is, whether it's ER or AR. We're not going to do the IR verbs yet, but it's very similar. So there's this pattern. You find the stem, you change it based on who's doing the action. Remember, this is singular over here, this is plural over here, this is first, second, and third person. And then you can change it based on who is doing the action. All right, so you've learned, just a brief recap, you've learned how to talk about the future tense using this ir plus a plus infinitive formula. You learned to conjugate ir, voy, vas, va, vamos, van. You learned what infinitives are. They're the form of the verb that ends in AR, ER, or IR. And we would normally conjugate that to talk, to sing. But if you want to talk about a particular person doing that action, then you have to change the ending of that verb. You find the stem, chop off the AR, and add the appropriate ending based on who's doing the action. O, as, a, amos, an. O, es, hemos, en. Okay, so good luck. That is verb conjugation in a nutshell, and we'll learn more as the year goes.